I was thinking, we haven't had a mission in a while.
I know, it's getting so boring just hanging around here.
There's nothing to do.
And there's just so much going on in the world. There has to be something we can research.
It'd be kind of cool if it was like something around here.
Yeah, the Middle East.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of political unrest there right now.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of conflict going on.
Wait,
what's that? It's a mission!
Yes! What's it for?
It's from the United Nations.
International
Crisis Initiative.
Numerous areas of Africa and the Middle East are in political and or social unrest. Consider this while you determine whether or not anything can be done. Analyze the history of our country or area and advise us as to why the country is in crisis.
Please take into consideration that these cultures may have been in distress for a number of years. Thus, consideration of the depth of the dysfunction needs to be handled delicately. You need to deal with the concepts of imperialism, assimilation, colonialism, social Darwinism, ethnocentrism, and racism. Understand that you are being chosen for your understanding, professionalism, and compassion. Let's go. The year was 1918. Amir Faisal led the Arab troops into capturing Damascus, which ended the Ottoman Empire rule, which was 400 years. In 1920, Amir is now the king of Syria, but the French take over. In 1946, the British troops evacuated the French troops without a treaty. In 1947, the Ba'ath Party was founded. In 1971, Assad was elected president after he overthrew President Nur al-Din al-Aziz. In 1973, Assad says that all presidents have to be Muslim, which starts many riots. In 1994, Assad's son, Basil, is killed in a car crash. And it gets a little fishy in there because Assad was sick and Assad's brother was vice president at the time, and so Assad's son was next in line for the throne, but I kind of have a feeling that Assad's brother was the one who caused that car accident, but I don't know. Then in 2000, Assad dies, and his second son, Bashar, is the one who succeeded him. Let's see what's going on present day. That's what the Syrian government looks like. Non-existent. They don't really care about you unless you're trying to flee the country, in which, oh goodness, if other countries try and help you. They've stopped people from, oh goodness. They've stopped people from sending food, water, and health services to the refugees. It has been a constant state of war. No one knows whether or not they're safe, as you've just seen. 4 million people have fled, as this young woman was trying to do. It is one of the largest refugee exoduses. The Syrian government considers themselves to be a unitary republic, but to anyone outside of Syria, it's considered a dictatorship, with President Bashar al-Assad as their leader. The Islamic law is strictly followed by the judicial branch. There's also an executive and a legislative branch that includes 2 vice presidents, a prime minister, and a cabinet. Prime Minister Nadir al-Haki and President Bashar al-Assad are both part of the Ba'ath Party. This is not a stable government. People are there.
Okay, so here is Syria. And Syria's main trading partners are the European Union, which is like countries in Europe. They trade 22.5% with them.
They trade 13.3% with Iraq, and they trade 9% with Saudi Arabia, and 6.9% with China. They export apples and pears, sheep, goats, and they import wheat, cars, and raw sugar. So Syria is economically dependent because they need the money in their country and they need the goods that they get from it. Okay, Syria gets imports because they don't have the materials that they need, raw materials and wheat. They don't have those, so they trade with other countries to get those.
And why do they export stuff?
They export things so to give to other countries that need the materials that they have in extra amounts of.
And what does trade do for their economy?
So trade is good for the economy, it stabilizes it, puts money into the system, and it gives people like food and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Syria is dependent because they wouldn't have trade, and if they don't.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me, Dr. Cahill. What's Syria been like since imperialism was implicated?
Well, imperialism was implicated in Syria when the French took over Syria with the French Mandate with the Treaty of Sevres, which ended World War I. However, Syria opposed the rule of French, and when the French came into Syria, they were greeted with many rebellions. It took the French 3 years, from 1920 to 1923, to completely end all rebellions in Syria and have full control. However, in 1946, the British troops came into Syria and the French were forced to evacuate. They had given Syria no proper instruction in responsible self-government. The redivisions of Syria that took place while the French had control of the country caused the obstruction of a unified nation, and they emerged in 1945 as a military state with little unity. France gave Syria no fundamental political reconstruction, so they had no idea how to run their own governments. They were lost and they didn't know what to do. Political radicalization was initiated during the French Mandate. This is when a group adopts political, social, and religious ideals that reject the freedom of choice. This was almost a guarantee of Syria's current political instability. In 1963, President Hafez al-Assad relaxed the socialist economic measures within Syria, and this led to the emergence of a small but highly visible group of new entrepreneurs and businessmen. They became known as the Velvet Generation, and they were made up of high-ranking bureaucrats and the bureaucrats' relatives. The old and new ruling class managed to merge together through business partnerships and marriages, which created upper class, basically. Under the rule of Hafez al-Assad, peasants had a significant gain in their standard of living, and the government would transfer payments and grants of land from the upper class owners to the lower class. But the different classes are socially distinct. It's noticeable through what they wear, where they live, what food they eat, their accent, and just how they act in general. The upper middle class, like doctors and lawyers, have a higher education, and that's education is basically still a hard thing to come by. So if you have more of an education in Syria than you are in the upper middle class, or maybe even just the upper class. It's artisans and handicrafters that produce the basic commodities in Syria. They don't really have big industries and stuff. That was bad. We can just crop that out. The middle class has been stable for the past since when Hafez al-Assad was in power.
Since 1970.
1971. But the Islamic State militants, or ISIS, have basically ingrained themselves within Syrian society, and they view themselves as superior to everyone within Syria, so they think they are more to run the country, and they think that they have more power within their group than anyone in Syria, so they are basically just trying to take over.
The jihadist militants from the Islamic State believe in a holy war, and they have turned the conflict that originally started out because of an anti-government issue into a full-blown war. The government agreed to the removal or destruction of the Islamic State's chemical weapons, but they haven't done anything to show that they are trying to remove them.
What's going on with religion within Syria right now?
Okay, so basically the largest group are the Sunni Muslims, and they take up 74% of the population. They are the majority, but they are not the ones in power. The Shiite Muslims are in power, and they're the minority, and the Assad family are obviously Shiite, but they are a, it's called like a branched off, like part of it, like they're
all of it is Muslim, but there's the different branches. So the main two are Sunni and Shiite, but then within Shiite there's the Alawites.
And the Assad family and the security forces in Syria are both Alawites.
Yeah.
And the Sunni rebels have a problem with this, and that is why there's so much unease and like political unrest in Syria right now, because the Sunni are the majority, but the Shiite are the minority, and they're in power.
So part of the problem that this has caused, like Dr. Cahill was just saying, was that because the minority are the ones in power, people don't feel like their side is the one that's being represented. A president is only supposed to serve for 2 7-year terms, but Assad has already been in power for 15 years. So going on his 16th right now, and people want him to resign, but he does not want to, which is when part of the rebellion started. And
Hey Jean,
what's up?
I've been looking at this book all day and I cannot figure out what the difference between Sunni and Shiite Muslims are.
Well, a Sunni Muslim is someone who believes that Abu Bakr is the one who should have succeeded Muhammad when he died. He was the Prophet's first advisor, so that's why people believe he should have been.
And while Shiites believe that Muhammad's cousin Ali should have been the one to succeed Muhammad because he's his family, and they're believed to be the leaders of the Shiites.
So one believed that it should be the person who was next fit to rule, and the other one believed that it should be the bloodline to Muhammad.
Well, I could not find it in this book. Gigi?
It's an economics book, so.
Try this one.
Hello, my name is Rachel Cahill. I'm here reporting on the scene at the Syrian capital of Damascus.
Daily life for Syrians is terrible. Every village has changed sides multiple times during this war between the Sunni rebels and the government. The people are stuck in the middle. Most civilians have fled their homes, and these now abandoned homes are made to house military. There have been 250,000 reported dead, and ISIS fighters litter the streets. Wheat fields hide the bodies of Syrian soldiers, and the flies swarm, eating the decaying bodies. Constant gun battles and suicide attacks make the civilians live in unyielding fear. Missile launches fill a park, and they're all Russian-made. Army officers talk of 56,000 military deaths. There are photographs of Syrian soldiers plastered on walls and above shops. ISIS does this as well. From the outside, Damascus will appear the same as old times. Shops and mosques are open and people crowd the streets. There is only one surviving railway in Damascus, and it runs once a week. People will take this in hopes of just escaping their homes and their minds for a day, and maybe possibly to find happiness, even if it's just for a day. You can hear the explosions from Damascus. People are struggling to find peace while so many are dying close by. When these sheets were originally hung, it was to block the sun. Now, they block the eyes of a sniper.
I have a woman here with me who wants to report. Hello. I used to walk down the streets and know half the people I saw, but the people today are not the ones I see. Most of my friends have emigrated, and the outsiders are the ones who've come in. It's like Damascus is my home. Only it's not my home.
Thank you. We have a man as well who would like to say something. Now the normal thing in Syria is death. The abnormal thing is that you live. It's upside down.
She just smacked her head on the Basil is killed in a car crash. That's not funny at all. So what if... Okay, Gigi. Good job.